Hello, my name is Amy Suto. I'm a six-figure freelance writer, digital nomad, and I get to do what I love every day, travel the world and write. And I came up in Hollywood as a TV writer, and so my background is definitely as a storyteller, but I also do a lot of work with freelancers. I am sometimes in my free time a coach for freelancers, so I've helped a lot of different people from many different backgrounds get started in freelancing and finding their niche and finding the thing that they're most excited for. So I'm really excited to be here today and share some of the things that I've learned in my own career, as well as helping other freelancers with their own careers as well. It is so important for freelancers to specialize in something because you will lose out against other freelancers for jobs if you don't have a way to articulate what makes you competitive in the marketplace. And there is so much opportunity out there that you don't have to worry about competing against other freelancers in the traditional sense of, oh no, is there going to be enough jobs? There's plenty of jobs out there. The most important thing is to understand how to articulate to clients why you are the right choice for something. And there's a few different ways that you can specialize. You can turn yourself and your brand into a specialized kind of offering, meaning you could be really great at landing pages, or you could be really great at bringing together the story of many different kind of pieces of somebody through like different types of brand positioning and personal branding, thought leadership, things like that. So you could specialize in a collection of services for certain individuals. You can specialize in an industry, but you have to specialize in order for you to stand out as the top of your field. You can't be the top of your field as a general freelance writer. You can be the top of your field at being a conversion copywriter. You can be at the top of your field as a memoir ghostwriter, but you do need some sort of specialization. You need some sort of focus because this is the difference between being a lamp and being a laser. A lamp is really great, very diffuse energy, but a lamp is not going to burn through anything. As a laser, that focus allows you to concentrate your power and really actually make a difference and be efficient and effective. And so when you're specializing as a freelancer, you should be focusing on, okay, here are my ideal clients. And in order to reach those ideal clients, I need to understand what they need, what I'm really good at, and what I love to do, and how to bridge that gap through specialization and picking the kinds of assignments, the types of jobs, the type of industry that I love and I love writing in. So that is really important. And that's why specialization is important, is so that you can be like, you can land on a client's desk and they can look at your portfolio and look at what you're best at. And they're like, oh my gosh, this person is the perfect person for the job. We have to hire them. And so specialization helps you stand out at either being a specialist in storytelling, a specialist in landing pages, a specialist in AI, tech writing, like whatever it is, you need to be aware of the things that make you special. And that's why it's important to specialize. So, in order to find your niche, I would actually give you advice that might sound a little bit contrary, and start as a pretty general freelancer. If you're really not sure what you want to do, try everything. Go onto a platform like Contra or Upwork, apply for a bunch of different opportunities, try out memoir ghostwriting, try out copywriting, content writing, try out so many different things, see what you like and see what you hate, and really listen to yourself when you're trying an assignment, when you're working with somebody, and understand, do you like what you're doing? And then do you like working with this client? And do you like working with this type of person? And understanding the difference between, oh, I don't like this assignment because I don't like this client. And I don't like this assignment because I don't like writing short form copywriting. Like, I don't like that format. Understanding that difference will be really important to kind of know, oh, this format feels really good, or this industry is really interesting to me. And if you're really starting from scratch, you can even take a further step back and just begin by reading about different industries, reading about different walks of life, and reading different forms of copy, and reading different forms of content writing, and reading different books, and understanding like, oh, okay, I'm interested in this industry or this type of thing, or this kind of seems like a fascinating life. I actually got my start from reading a ton of different blogs written by freelancers. And I was reading all about the lives of people who were travel bloggers. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to be a travel blogger. But then I started reading about what it was actually like to be a travel blogger. And I was like, nope, not for me. And so understanding the different types of freelancing lives that you are going to live depending on the niche that you pick. So in my life as a memoir ghostwriter, I spend a lot of time thinking about people's lives and asking them questions and putting together books based on their life story. And in my copywriting life, it's kind of more of like marketing strategy, which I do a lot with my business partner and the businesses that we create together. And that like lights up a part of my brain that I use quite a bit that I really enjoy. That's kind of like a puzzle piece versus like memoir ghostwriting is more of like, uh, kind of highlighting my curiosity about somebody's life. And I'm a little bit nosy. And so I love kind of hearing about, somebody's like inner workings of how they came to live the life that they lead. And so, because I'm a bit nosy and because I also love kind of business strategy and I'm naturally kind of those two pieces of me like are things that I love to explore. Those two niches made sense to me when I was trying them out. I also did a bunch of other types of writing. I did a whole lot of different like experiments where I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I did a little bit of like journalism, and I was like, this is not it. And so understanding like what you are actually excited about, like, do you like chasing down a story and going after a source and like doing like reporter like interviews, or do you want no part of that and you want to instead really understand the intersection of poetry and psychology that goes into copywriting? Or do you really want to kind of focus on social media copywriting, like and ghostwriting scripts for TikTok videos for founders or other influential people, or, ghostwriting LinkedIn and Twitter, which is shockingly a bigger market than you can possibly think of. Like people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just ghostwriting on Twitter. And so it's like understanding that there's a lot that's possible out there. And as a freelance writer, you should be curious about trying out different things and then decide, oh, this feels good, this doesn't feel good, and then go from there. When I'm working with a lot of my coaching clients who are freelance writers trying to figure out the right path for themselves, it's really important that they know that it is okay and not a failure to change niches. Because I think that we're so ingrained by society that once we pick something, it's a failure if we deviate or change. When in reality, I've switched my niche many times and I have explored different paths and I have left memoir ghostwriting. I came back to memoir ghostwriting. Copywriting and content writing were things that I was trying to figure out in what capacity they felt good for my writing process. And so I think it's so important that as a writer, you understand that it is okay that your interest may change over time, that the niche that you're writing in might feel stale after a while, and you might need to go change what that is. And that as a freelance writer, you're building skills. You're building both soft skills in terms of how you work with clients and how you deal with interpersonal situations, as well as hard skills like researching, editing, writing, and the different parts that go into creating a beautiful finished product. And so it's important to know that you haven't lost everything if midway through your freelance career, you decide to switch it to a different niche or different industry or different format. The learning curve will get smaller and smaller over time because all types of freelance writing are based on the same tenets of storytelling, great writing, how to put together a sentence that sounds good, looks good, feels good, and also, making something that your client loves and understanding how to get the information from your client to create something that they love. It is an art form, and it is an art form that applies across niches. And so understanding that even if you are very hyper specialized, even if you have for the last like 50 years have been working as a copywriter in fax machines, you can still branch out and change your niche. Like it doesn't matter where you've been, because if you've been working as a freelance writer, you've been accumulating and acquiring skills, both on the client side as well as personally. And you can put those skills to use in different places. So don't be afraid to pivot if you feel like you chose the wrong niche. Don't box yourself in. You can always change. The goal here is just to make sure that you're not changing your niche when things get hard. If things are hard and you're just not feeling how things are hard and you decide to just switch, and you keep doing that every time you run into a snag, that is not okay, because you're going to constantly put yourself in a place where you haven't stuck through the hard times to get to the other side. But you should listen to yourself. If every time you open up a document to start a blog, you're like, I hate this. I wish I was writing a tagline right now. that's what you should listen to. It's this format is burning me out, or this, I wish I was writing another assignment instead. That is really kind of the things that will help key you into you're in the wrong niche and you need to switch. Um, and you also need to understand when burnout is affecting you. Because if you're in the right niche, but you're burned out and you're not managing your energy, schedule, and time, and you're picking the wrong clients or your rates aren't high enough, you're going to get burnt out no matter what niche you're in. And so, understanding that picking a niche and understanding what your specialization is and marketing that and building your personal brand around that, that's one part of your equation. You need to make sure that the rest of your freelancing strategy is built out in a way that will allow you to have a career that is fruitful and enjoyable, without running into constant burnout. And that's something that I realized when I took on too many memoirs at once. I felt really burnt out and I was like, I'm done with memoirs. I'm not doing this anymore. And so I took a step back. I started focusing on copywriting more. And then I realized, wait a minute, I still love memoirs. I still love this process. And so I got back into memoirs in that bigger way, and I've been really enjoying it. And so I think it's really important to know, are you just tired or burnt out, or do you need a real pivot or a break from what you've been writing? So, those are the things that I think would be important to be adaptable and flexible. Deciding when you are going to niche down is a pretty personal decision for every different freelancer. If you have just started, you're brand new, and you have no idea what you like and what you don't like, then it's totally okay to spend some time being a generalist and trying out different assignments. But as soon as you kind of have an inkling, you're like, oh, this actually is really cool, you should start pulling on that thread, because it's really important to get deeper into that niche. And if you love it, then you should just go all in and try that niche out. You can always pivot later if you realize that it's not quite for you. But I would avoid the syndrome of trying to find like the exact right, perfect niche for you. Because I think every niche is going to have the things about it that are great or not so great. And sometimes there are other things about that freelance niche that might be affecting you that are not related to the niche at all, like not, your pricing might be too low, you might not be charging enough, might not, your pricing structure might not be correct, you might not be working with the right clients, you might not be identifying who your ideal clients are. And so I think that as soon as you start to really find like the thing that you're writing and you finish the assignment, you're like, that was really fun, I really like that, I got into a flow state. The moment that you kind of like find that flow state is the moment that you should start to follow that niche. And so I think about 3 months is after you spend 3 months being a generalist, that's a good time to start niching down if you felt like you have that thing that's kind of exciting you. If you're 3 months in and you're like kind of excited about something, but you're not really, and everything kind of feels the same, I would keep looking for the right niche for you or the right industry. But I would say, yeah, if you have something where like that was cool, then I would start chasing that and seeing how that feels and trying on that niche for a longer period of time. And then if it continues to feel right for you, I would rebrand everything that you have in your materials and your portfolio to be focused on that niche. Um, and that's not to say that you can never do anything outside of that niche or specialization again. I still take on assignments that are completely different and out of the ballpark for what I'm doing currently. And so it's important to know that like you can always pivot, you can always take on assignments that are completely outside of your niche. That's okay. But as soon as you start to feel that passion for something and that excitement for something, you should run full force to it, because that means that that something is going to be what might be the right field for you. And it takes quite a bit of time to rebrand and people to know you as an expert in that space. And so when I was kind of getting into the Web3 space, which was really exciting, and I was doing a lot of like metaverse game writing and things like that, I at first just did like one or two assignments, but after my second assignment, I'm like, okay, I need to stop. I need to rebrand and make this a big part of my business, because I love game writing and I love this type of creative storytelling that is fitting into this really interesting field that is trying to kind of like decentralize and get away from big tech. And it has its problems like every other industry and every other niche. But I think that as soon as I started kind of feeling that tug of like, oh, these people need stories, these people need like storytellers who can actually help these games, these communities really thrive. And this is something that is a fit for my skills, it's a fit for my interests. And I'm all about decentralization and kind of finding ways to shift away from big tech and surveillance capitalism. Um, So as soon as I figured that out, I went all in. I started speaking at conferences. I flew out to NFT London and was a speaker there. I'm going to be a speaker again at NFT New York in about a month or two. And so it takes some time to establish yourself in that niche. And so as soon as you find something that you're like, yeah, this is it, or if you have that inkling, you should sprint towards it, start to rebrand, and continuing to check in with yourself and see how you feel about that niche. And if you find yourself hating it a year from now, you can always start to think about a rebrand or an addition to what your services are, or there's different ways to troubleshoot and figure out where you should kind of head next. So life is way too short to not do what you love. And this is why it is a superpower to be able to pick a niche that intersects with what you're passionate about. And so if you pick a niche that you're not passionate about, your clients are going to feel it. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to burn you out. I remember when I was not working on projects that I was as excited about, I didn't feel excited to show up to the project. I didn't really present as my best self on client calls. I wasn't turning in or working on projects that I was like, heck yes, this is my day, my life. It was when I really started shifting and working with founders and doing memoir ghostwriting and doing more creative work in the freelance field, where I was like, yeah, this is awesome. This is so fun. This is so crazy that I get to write XYZ and wake up today and do this. And so your passion is your secret weapon, because starting anything takes time. It can take up to 3 years to fully get your freelance business off the ground. That's not the norm for everybody. I've seen people get their freelance business off the ground within a year or less, but good things take time, and you're going to have periods of ups and downs. And the beginning is always the hardest as a freelancer when you're establishing a reputation, you're finding clients, you're growing your business. And so it's really important to know that you have to be in this for the long run. And if you are doing something that you don't love, you're not going to stick with it, because you're going to, and if you do, you'll be miserable. And so it's really important to come at freelancing from a place of passion, and figure out how your passion can play into something that is also profitable, but that feels soulful and feels satisfying, because that is the only way that you're going to be able to find success and happiness. When freelancers are thinking about finding their niche, it's really important that you are starting with a place of passion and a core competency. So, for example, when I was in Hollywood and I was starting to get my career started as a freelance writer, I knew that I loved I loved learning about people's lives. I was just very curious about people, and I love storytelling. And so that led me to my first niche of being a memoir ghostwriter. And so that was the first thing that I went all in on. That was the specific kind of area that I started finding clients in. But outside of that, I was very much a Swiss Army knife. I did a lot outside of memoir ghostwriting. And the way that I sold myself and my skills was as a storyteller first, as a story informed copywriter, story informed content writer. And from there, I ended up doing a lot of different jobs across many different niches, even though my main kind of for like the two niches that I'm known for is memoir ghostwriting and tech copywriting, specifically in the Web3 space. So when you're thinking about your niche, I think that people find a lot of success from areas of interest that they are passionate about, that they're excited about. And sometimes that area of interest might be a format like memoir ghostwriting. And so I've written memoirs for people across many different industries and fields and with many different life stories. And so, but for other people, the kind of niche that you're picking might be specific to an industry. Like I really love tech, and I write a lot of different kind of articles for B2B SaaS companies, for Web3 companies, for AI focused companies. And so I do a lot in different parts of Web3 and tech in general. And so the more niche down you are, the more specific that you are going to have a smaller base of clients. But if you're able to be very findable for that small group of clients, they are going to all know that you are the expert, and then they can come to you to get exactly what they want. And so if you do that, that's kind of more of an approach where you're kind of like a cheetah. Like you're really good at being fast, like you are able to be really good at one thing. Then there's the other approach, which is kind of like the approach of like being a duck. Ducks are not fast, ducks cannot fly very far, but ducks can do three things really well. They can swim, they can fly, and they can waddle. And so the combination of those three skills, where they're not the best at any one of those, like you're not going to, a duck is not going to beat you on land in a foot race. But a duck can do three things to get away from predators, whereas a cheetah can do one thing really well. They are fast. And so Understanding if you're a duck or a cheetah, like, do you wanna niche down and be really specific in one thing and be really good at one thing that you know you're passionate about and that you're all in on? Or do you wanna do multiple things really well and kind of figure out what is the core strength, the core competency that you have that gives yourself your competitive advantage? And so those are the 2 paths that I usually advise people to go, is either be a duck or a cheetah, because that kind of helps you understand, like, am I going for the approach where it's like when you hire a handyman, like if a handyman comes in your house and is like, I only fix sinks, and you have like a door that needs to be rehung and you have to hire another handyman to do that. No, when you hire a handyman, you want them to be able to do multiple things and be handy. Whereas if you're hiring somebody to, fix an antique car of yours, you're going to want somebody who has specialized in that specific car, especially if it's very expensive and maybe it's a family heirloom or something. And so you have to understand like what your strengths kind of make you best at. Whether you're really good at one specific thing, like I know copywriters that focus on landing pages only is the only thing that they do, and they're really good at that. And then I know people who are kind of more focused in different areas. So that's all of that to say there's a bunch of different ways to approach how to sell yourself and your skills and how to pick a niche, but you do need to begin from a place of passion because that will be your true competitive advantage. When it comes to the fastest growing niches, anything that is kind of in the growth area that companies are receiving a lot of investment in, that there's a large focus in an industry or an area, that is where the money is going to be going. That is where your specialization will get the most juice if it is in one of those fast growing industries or sectors. And that's not saying that every specialization has to be in something that is super popular. For example, I know people who specialize in writing copy for luxury watches that are doing just fine. But I think it's a lot easier to compete in an industry and a lot easier to win jobs and build a really successful, thriving career in a fast growing industry or niche in that industry. A few of the things to think about is anything related to tech. So this could be healthcare technology and like medical devices. This could be, and then of course, anything related to social media, copywriting, ghostwriting for founders, thought leadership for founders, anything that is kind of helping people in the marketing sphere. So things related to tech and marketing are going to be huge because those are the budgets in those kind of sectors are huge, especially if it's marketing for a tech company. And so I do think that tech, because it is, tech is kind of like a vague term nowadays because a lot of industries are being powered by technology. And so to say the tech industry can be a little bit general. And so trying to figure out like if there is a part of tech that you're interested, like ed tech. There's a big thriving world and like industry there for writing for ed tech companies, writing curriculums for ed tech companies, writing newsletter campaigns. And so understanding the areas that you're most interested in and that you're really excited about. Like some people love the B2B SaaS where you're helping businesses, work with other businesses to help business owners, or some people love consumer products, so B2C. And so kind of understanding like what you're most excited about will help you kind of also then shine a light on like what is actually out there in the world that you're like, oh, okay, I love these products. I would love to write copy for a non-alcoholic brand, like of cocktails, like of sober cocktail brand. And so there's a growing movement of like products in the alternatives to alcoholic beverage space. And so understanding like if you're kind of more in the physical product space, or if you're more in like the tech world, if you're more in consumer or business to business, like understanding what your interests are will help you kind of then explore what is profitable. And if you're not sure, then you can always go on freelance platforms and scroll through the profiles of other freelance writers and freelancers that have the career that you want, and then understand what kind of where they're at, what are they focusing on, like who on Upwork and Contra is working for what types of companies and what looks interesting to you. I think that form of competitor research is actually a great way for you to understand what other people are doing and what it looks interesting for you.
When you're thinking about niches, you should always avoid any niche that is not interesting or exciting for you. Like I said, you need to follow your passion. But outside of that, the only other type of niche to avoid is a dying industry. So if you were thinking about getting into fax machine manual writing, or I don't know, something related to an industry that is dying, don't do that. I say this because I even started writing for cable companies, which was a weird thing to do back when streaming was just about to take over. And so I think it's really important to understand that the macro trends are important to be aware of. And another thing to think about is to avoid any niche that is so small and unprofitable, and there's not enough Google queries or interest to keep it alive for a long time. Because if you become the preeminent freelance writer in I don't know, an obscure board game that nobody's heard about and nobody will pay for, or a hobby that is so rare and strange that nobody is going to be searching on Google for it, then you're not going to find enough clients to pay you the rate that you would need to make it worth your time to write about these things. And so that's why it's really important to find the intersection between the thing that you love, the thing that will pay you money, and how you can bring value through the world by using your core competencies, your skill sets, the things that you are best at. And another thing to remember is that that whole intersection is completely unrelated to your degree or what you went to school for, which is irrelevant. You do not need a degree, you do not need formal education to write about anything. I say this as somebody who I don't math, I don't do it, I'm not very good at it. I was not a science gal. I was not going to be a STEM person ever. And these days, sometimes I write for med tech startups, medical device companies. I write for biotech companies because as a freelance writer, you are not the one doing the science. You are the one having to take what a complex topic is and communicate it to their ideal audience. And so that is why it's really important to understand that you don't need a degree for this. You just need to have the skills and the ability to do research to fill in the gaps. If you're really excited about something like cosmetic science, if you really want to learn about skincare and the products in skincare and you want to write about it, then that is something that you can do even if you have no formal training in beauty or science related to beauty products. And so you can supplement anything that you want to do and learn anything that you want to do. So don't let anything hold you back from the niche that you're excited about. But don't pick a niche just because it's going to print money. You will give up your soul in the process. And so as a freelance writer, the goal in picking a great niche is longevity. You want your career to feel exciting and new and beautiful to you most days. It's not always going to. Like, work is still going to take something out of you. But if you pick the work that you love, you'll feel satisfied and excited at the end of every day. Even on your bad days, you'll still really love the things that you do. And so it's really important to remember that if you want a long, profitable, exciting career as a freelancer, the closer that you are to your passion and things that you love, the better off that you'll be. The more that you are doing things that you hate, the more unhappy you'll be, which will bleed into your work and how you interact with clients. And so it comes back to picking a passion that you love and then figuring out how to match that passion with the industry's demand and to create value for your clients so that they can justify the budget that it takes to hire you. And the more that you charge as a freelancer, the more of an expert that you become as you kind of brand yourself as an artisan freelancer. It is really important to continue to think about ways in which you bring value so that people can see that, so that you can communicate that to your clients in whatever niche that you pick. But yeah, that's the gist on picking niches and how to create value for your clients and how to stay relevant with the tide and not pick something that is going to not let you have the kind of career that you could have had you picked the right niche.
So this question of whether or not we should have multiple niches or one niche is near and dear to my heart because I too have many hobbies, many interests, and many things that I'm passionate about. And so, if you have multiple interests like nursing and knitting, and like healthcare and things like that, and they feel kind of disparate, you should still pursue both of them if you're passionate about both of them. When it comes to separating into different websites, this is the part that I think that it kind of depends on your niches. But overall, I found that anytime that I started separating websites and separating different like URLs and domains, it really hurt me because when you're trying to win search engine traffic and those leads and those links, you're going to lose them if you decide to take down that website. And that's what happened to me. I had a separate website just for my freelancing, and then I realized all of these links and all this traffic is going to this website that is a completely different domain from my main amysuto.com website. And I was losing so much traffic and so much search engine optimization and people coming into that website because I was separating my traffic. So, from an SEO perspective, it's actually better to just have separate landing pages on your website that is your blog, your one-stop shop for everything about you. And because you might find somebody who is a healthcare startup company that maybe also they love knitting and have a personal blog about knitting or YouTube channel, or they know somebody who does and they could recommend you. And that's kind of a weird thing to think about, but it does happen. And I have had clients who are like, wait, I didn't know you did memoirs. Like, I would love for you to write my friend's memoir. And so the more they can keep things under one roof, even if you have multiple niches, the better. But I would recommend separate landing pages at the very least. Or if you have one landing page for your freelancing business, have different separate places for different services so that people can know where to go when they want to learn more about a specific service. And so understanding how to keep things under one roof and simplify is so much better than finding complexity by having multiple websites that you're going to have to manage. And it's also going to cost you more money to have different domains that you're paying for and different website hosting. And to build both of those websites up in search engines to get that passive traffic and those passive leads, it's not worth it. Keep everything under one roof. And if you're wanting to experiment with a new niche, it's totally okay to do that. Just open up a new landing page and direct people to that landing page for that specific niche. And that's the big way that you can kind of control your image as a writer and as a freelancer while still keeping everything under one roof. And for these landing pages, you can also have them be unlisted and maybe a little bit more difficult to find on your website so that people don't see all of your different freelance niches in one spot. And so there's a few different tips and tricks that you can use in order to kind of separate your different freelance identities without having to have an entirely different website.
When I'm working with my coaching clients, one of the core things that we work on together is understanding what your brand is as a freelance writer. And I know that personal brand can feel like sometimes a little awkward or weird or very capitalism. But in reality, the goal as a freelance writer is to be findable. And if you want to be an expert in your field, if you want to be the top of your niche, you need to understand how other people can see you and perceive you as an expert and understand the value that you bring to that field, that niche, that type of writing. And so sharing your expertise is a natural way for people to see you as an expert. And that's where a lot of thought leadership comes in. You might be watching this video, hearing me talk about freelancing and perceiving me as an expert because I'm sharing what I know and my knowledge. And so I do a lot of different things like press interviews, and I also write a lot on Twitter and LinkedIn and on my blog. And I try to share and be generous with the knowledge that I know, the things that I've learned, the massive amount of mistakes that I've made, and the things that I'm like, yep, not doing that again. Here's what I learned. And people read that, especially my clients, they see, oh, this person has thought really deeply about thought leadership. This person has thought really deeply about how to communicate someone's story and share information. And so I think that that is really important, is you as a freelancer need to be able to share your perspective, your opinion, because people aren't coming to you to be like, hey, like make me like 300 blog posts. Like, that's going to get eaten by AI. If you want to be an expert, if you want to be an artisan freelancer, which is the term that I coined to basically explain this class of expert freelancers who are often creative, who have their own creative projects and aspirations, and are at the top of their field, and that are craftsmen, and who really care deeply about the process in which that they make their work, the theories around their work. For example, I have so much to say and so many opinions about how copywriting is just a combination of poetry and ad psychology. And I think that if you're sharing the thing that you're passionate about, and you're sharing your knowledge, and you're practicing in public, and you're sharing your pitfalls and things that you learned, you're sharing the wins that you're allowed to share with client projects that you're not under a confidentiality agreement with, then that kind of allows people to see your passion on display. And that is how you become an expert, is by showing the things that you care about, sharing your opinion, sharing your expertise, and not a degree. A degree, like I said before, is not needed. Nobody has asked me about my degree as a screenwriter. And I've been hired, like I said, by biotech companies. I've written articles in Entrepreneur. I've ghostwritten articles in Entrepreneur for medical companies. Like, I've done a lot of very technical writing that I have no business writing about, but people come to me because they know that I'm a storyteller. They see my personal branding, they see my website, they see my materials, my portfolio, and the things that I put out there. And they're like, yeah, like, I trust you. I've seen your work. I know that you're going to do this with care and with love. And that's really what clients want at the end of the day. They want their freelancer that they hire to show up and exercise some creativity and some care and some love, and to bring some of their passion and that skill set to their assignment. And so that is what personal branding is just basically taking your passion and your skill set and your expertise and putting it on display so that other people can get to know you as a person, not just a freelancer. It doesn't have to be transactional. It can be really holistic and really cool. And through my own personal branding, I've also met a lot of amazing people that I call friends and colleagues and other people in the world that I'm just like, I'm a fan of yours and I can't wait to see what you do. And so I think that that's really, at the end of the day, is to just be authentic in your connection with people and in how you put yourself out there, because you do need to put yourself out there. Every freelancer has to have a blog or social media or some collection of an online presence that shares who they are, what they do, and how they help clients. And so that is something that I always work very closely with my coaching clients on, because it is so crucial, and it's also overlooked because it doesn't directly lead to income at first. But now most of my leads, most of my clients find me through my website and through ways that I don't have to go find them as much anymore. They find me. And so by putting yourself out there and building a personal brand around your niche, around your specialty, you're going to be a lot more findable, and people are going to discover you. And then lastly, making sure that you've built a killer portfolio and that you're continuously adding to that portfolio and allowing yourself to be seen in your work is also critical and very, very key. It's one of your top marketing kind of materials is your portfolio. So make sure that you spend a lot of time, attention, and love on that. I would say my last thought on niches, branding yourself as an expert freelancer, is that you as a freelancer need to make sure that you have built marketing channels that position you as an expert in your field, and that, like I said, put yourself out there as your personal brand and who you are and your thoughts and opinions. And so if you're a freelance writer, you're probably used to doing a lot of marketing related work for your clients. And so it's very important that you're carving out time in your schedule to do that for yourself, because even though you're not getting paid to maybe write a blog post about something you're passionate about, or maybe you're not being paid, it's not billable hours to go out and write a LinkedIn post about kind of what you were thinking about when you built a landing page that you think is really successful and you want to share that kind of psychology with other people. That kind of stuff is not billable hours, but it will actually help you in the long run. And so I do think that there's a huge benefit for freelancers to have some aspect of content creation in their business, especially if it is related to the niche. Because if somebody stumbles upon your newsletter or some content that you're making related to your niche and your expertise, then that's going to be a great way for you to build trust with your community and with them, and for them to see you as an expert in your field. And so don't skimp on the marketing. I know it's not billable hours for you, but it is actually one of the biggest ways that I have been able to meet clients and that they've been able to find me and hire me. And so that is something that I think is very crucial and often overlooked when people think that, oh, I can just put up a profile on a freelance platform, or I can just rebrand my landing page and then clients will come in. You don't want to also be so reliant on only getting clients through cold outreach, because if you are busy on a client project and you don't have time to do outreach, you still need your client pipeline to be moving. And so that's where passive marketing streams come in. And that's where building kind of ways for people to find you and being very findable is really important. And so that is something that I would say not to overlook, because it's so exciting to pick a niche and to think about all the things that you want to do. But the execution also comes not only in that rebrand and putting yourself out there as that thing, but also the consistent daily marketing of your skills, which can seem really daunting, but there's definitely ways to make it a lot easier to create systems where you're repurposing content. And so there's a lot of different strategies that you can use as a freelancer to put yourself out there in a way that is authentic to you, is not salesy, and also shares your expertise. And so thank you so much for having me. It's been great to chat with y'all, and I hope that all this was helpful. And then I also run a blog at amysuto.com with a ton of different thoughts and ideas about freelancing, about different freelance niches. And so I try to break down and be really transparent about my process and what I'm thinking about, what I'm changing. And I hope that that is all really helpful.